Welcome back, everyone, to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 296, and today let's begin a brand new category. Let's talk about work. So today's topic is Work 1, and of course, we'll talk about this topic in detail. Freelancing versus full-time work. So our viewers out there, some of you may be freelancers. You may have a part-time job, or you may have a full-time job. You know the differences between the three, right? Okay then, if you have a rough idea or even a better idea of what these mean, well, we're going to get started with our first segment. It's time for Actual Talk.
Hey Gareth, you own your own school, don't you?
I do, yes. I teach privately, one-to-one to business people in the Gangnam area. So it's really interesting. I'm a big fan of freelancing. I've lots of different variety of students, from CEOs to doctors to marketing people. So people from all walks of life.
Wait a minute, freelancing, I thought you owned your own building, like you...
No, I don't actually. I go to their office, or I teach them in their house, or even rent a study room, for example, CNN. So it's really good. It's a real challenge, and I like to be my own boss. What about yourself?
Well, I was always under the impression that you were a big boss, but in a different way. I guess freelancing is, as you said, being your own boss. I'm a freelancer too, but I own a business. Although I still feel like freelancing is what I do most of the time. You know what? A lot of people tell me that they envy me. It's got its pluses and minuses. It really does. I could never really get into the life of being in an office for a set period of time.
Absolutely.
And I used to do that. It kind of really... well, let's just say it made me start to appreciate the great outdoors a little more. But
stuck in a 9-to-5 job can be really
mind-numbing.
It's mind-numbing, and it feels like you're in a prison. I love the freedom of getting out and about and moving around. So
I do too. Yeah. The only thing is, with that freedom comes a risk. With every benefit, there's always a risk. So I tell people that when they're envious, you can take that risk, but you got to be prepared that it might not work out.
Yeah. A lot of responsibility, eh?
We're lucky people anyway.
We are very lucky.
Welcome back, everyone. Did you listen carefully to today's Actual Talk conversation? We had Kelly and Gareth helping us out. Now, what were they talking about? Of course, they were talking about freelancing or having a full-time job. Now, these two freelance. Kelly's mentioned something about running her own business as well, but she considers herself more a freelancer. Okay, so let's take a look at the conversation together. Here we go. First of all, Kelly says, "Hey, Gareth, you own your own school, don't you?" Now, school. We're probably talking about a small institute, maybe, as we call them, hagwons in Korea. So she's asking, you own your own school, don't you? This means that it belongs to Gareth, okay? And this is his school. So she's saying, you own your own school. A school belongs to you, doesn't it? You run your own school, don't you? Now you have an idea, right? Okay. And then he says, I teach privately, one-to-one. So who does he teach? Business people in the Gangnam area. So he did not say yes, he did not say no to Kelly's question, but he just says, I teach privately. Okay. He teaches privately. You can also say, I tutor privately. But tutoring is used more for students, I guess. But if you teach a language, any skill, you can say, I teach somebody something. In this case, he says one-to-one. Now, you may take a look at this. More commonly, we tend to say one-on-one instead of one-to-one. One-to-one you will hear occasionally, but as I said, more commonly you will hear one-on-one. That means privately, okay, directly in communication with somebody else. There's person-to-person, which also works. So the idea here is he teaches business people privately, one-on-one, okay? It's really interesting. I'm a big fan of freelancing. I'm a big fan of something, meaning he really likes freelancing. I have a different variety of students from CEOs to doctors to marketing people, okay? So, people from all walks of life. Let's take a look at this sentence here, up to here, okay? Or rather, up to here. I have a different variety of students. So now he's talking about the different types of people. The people that he teaches English, okay? That he teaches privately. So he's saying some of my students are CEOs, some are doctors, some are marketing people. So he says, so the students that I teach are from all walks of life. Basically, when you say all walks of life, you're talking about all social, economic, you're talking about just people from all different groups. Wealthy people, poor people, it doesn't matter. People from everywhere, all different people, okay? From all walks of life. We'll take a look at this pattern later on and practice it together, so hold your worries. Okay, so now we have an idea of what Gareth does, okay? Now let's move on. Kelly says, wait a minute. Freelancing? I thought you owned your own building. So she's back to asking the first question. Now Gareth says, no, I don't actually. So boom, he doesn't own his own building. He doesn't own his own school. He says, I go to their office or I teach them in their house or rent a study room in CNN. So what does he do? He doesn't actually own a building. He doesn't own a school or an institute, but he goes to different places to teach his students. So what does he do? He goes to their office, or he goes to teach them in their house, or he rents a study room, okay? A study room, like a small conference room, okay? Where he could rent out, get together with his students and teach in private, okay? Now, moving on, she says, okay. Now, Gareth says it's really good. It's a real challenge, and I like to be my own boss. Okay, that is an idiomatic expression. Can you imagine what that means? Imagine. I say to you, I'm my own boss. I don't have a boss. I'm my own boss. Now, can you guess? Do you have a feeling of what this means? Okay, now if you have a boss, of course, he or she can give you orders. They can tell you what to do. But if you are your own boss, you can tell yourself what to do, what not to do. So you are in control of everything you do, business-wise. So be one's own boss means to be self-employed, an entrepreneur, okay? Means to run your own business. Okay, and then he asks, what about yourself? She says, well, I was always under the impression that you were a big boss. But I guess freelancing is, as you said, being your own boss. That's right. Freelancing is being your own boss. All right. I hope you understand what that question means, what that sentence means. All right, but let's take a look at this pattern over here. Under the impression. Under the impression. If you say to be under the impression, I was under the impression that something, something, something. To be under the impression means to assume or to guess. To think something by assuming. In most cases, you will be incorrect because you are guessing. But simply put, to be under the impression that something, something, something means to guess, just to assume something. So she's thinking, I always thought, I always guessed, I somehow assumed that you were the big boss. But I guess freelancing is being your own boss. That's true. She says, I'm a freelancer too, but I own a business. So, Kelly could have said, I'm a freelancer too, and I'm my own boss. Okay? Means to run one's own business. You know what? A lot of people tell me that they envy me. They're jealous of me. They wish they were me. And she says it's got its pluses and minuses. Pluses and minuses. We're talking about pros and cons. The pluses and minuses. The advantages and the disadvantages. The good points and the bad points. Got it? Pluses and minuses. I could never really get into the life of being in an office for a set period of time. So being in an office, she could never get into the life or that lifestyle of being stuck in an office, sitting at her desk for a set period of time. And I used to do that, and it kind of made me start to appreciate, be thankful for something, the great outdoors a little more. I see. We're talking about the outdoors, the great outdoors, nature itself. So what she's telling us is she currently is a freelancer, although she does own her own business, but she's saying that she has had a job at an office before. She sat in an office for a set period of time, meaning for a set number of hours, okay? So she would go to work at, for example, 9 o'clock. She would have to stay in her office until 6 o'clock, and then she would go home. But she says, yeah, I did that, and it made me appreciate, be thankful for nature and the outdoors a little more, okay? So she's talking about her experience. Anyhow, Garrett says, yeah, being stuck in a 9-to-5 job can be really, a 9-to-5 job is just a regular office job. Although people don't go to work at 9 and get off at 5 anymore, long ago in America, these were the regular working hours. So people would go to their office by 9, punch in at 9, and they would punch out at 5 o'clock, meaning go home by 5. So that's why we call just an ordinary, regular office job a 9-to-5 job. All right. Now, Kelly says, those 9-to-5 jobs can be mind-numbing. What is numb? N-U-M-B. The B here is silent, so it would be pronounced as numb, as an N-U-M. Now, if you feel numb, it means that you don't feel any physical senses. You don't feel anything emotionally either, okay? It's like your senses freeze. So if your mind numbs, it means that your brain does not think. You go, that's mind numbing, okay? So Gary says, it feels like you're in a prison, okay? It feels like you're in jail. I love the freedom of getting out and about, and moving around. So Garrett says, yeah, I like the feeling of getting out and about. Can you imagine what that means? It's followed by moving around. Out and about. Outside? That's right. Now, usually when you say to be out and about, it means to leave home, to go outside, to go to work. It can also mean to be active in activities. So if you enjoy social activities, you can be out and about, just busy doing something outside of home. So we'll take a look at that later on and practice more of it. Anyhow, he says it feels like prison if you're stuck inside an office, and he likes to be outside, doing things, moving around. I do too. The only thing is, with that freedom comes a risk, a danger, right? With every benefit, with every advantage, with every plus, there's always a risk. There's always that danger of something, that chance of something. So I tell people that when they're envious, we had the word envy before. People envy Kelly. Now she says, I tell people that when they're envious, when you are envious, it means that you have this feeling that you're jealous of someone. It's that feeling you have when you want to be like somebody. when you want to have something that somebody else has. You can be envious of somebody. So she says, when they're envious, you can take that risk, okay? Go ahead. If you really are jealous, go ahead and take that risk. But you've got to be prepared, you've got to be ready that it might not work out. Just in case it does not work out, you have to be ready for that. All right? Okay, and then moving on to our last part. Garrett says, yeah, more responsibility, eh? That's right. To be a freelancer, to do anything, well, yes, you need more responsibility. We're lucky people anyway, and Garrett says we're very lucky. So these two seem to be very happy with their jobs, what they do for a living, and I wonder if you are happy. So once again, we're talking about freelancing and working full-time. Think about the kind of work that you do. Maybe take this opportunity to think about the kind of work that you would like to do instead of the job that you have right now. Or if you're happy with what you do, talk about that with someone. All right, let's take a listen to the actual talk conversation one more time.
Hey Gareth, you own your own school, don't you?
I do, yes. I teach privately, one-to-one to business people in the Gangnam area. So it's really interesting. I'm a big fan of freelancing. I've lots of different variety of students, from CEOs to doctors to marketing people. So people from all walks of life.
Wait a minute, freelancing, I thought you owned your own building, like you...
No, I don't actually. I go to their office, or I teach them in their house, or even rent a study room, for example, CNN. So it's really good. It's a real challenge, and I like to be my own boss. What about yourself?
Well, I was always under the impression that you were a big boss, but in a different way. I guess freelancing is, as you said, being your own boss. I'm a freelancer too, but I own a business. Although I still feel like freelancing is what I do most of the time. You know what? A lot of people tell me that they envy me. It's got its pluses and minuses. It really does. I could never really get into the life of being in an office for a set period of time.
Absolutely.
And I used to do that. It kind of really... well, let's just say it made me start to appreciate the great outdoors
you do,
a little more. But
stuck in a 9-to-5 job can be really
mind-numbing.
It's mind-numbing, and it feels like you're in a prison. I love the freedom of getting out and about and moving around. So
I do too. Yeah. The only thing is, with that freedom comes a risk. With every benefit, there's always a risk. So I tell people that when they're envious, you can take that risk, but you got to be prepared that it might not work out.
Yeah. A lot of responsibility, eh?
We're lucky people anyway.
We are very lucky.
Now it's time for actual expressions, everyone. Are you ready? Okay, let's take a look at some words and then move on to our patterns for today. The first word we have for you is numb. Numb. Now, if you take a look, as I told you, there is no B sound. So the B is not pronounced. It's numb, numb. Some synonyms are indifferent, dazed, or even insensitive. This is when you don't feel anything. You may not feel anything physically, but usually when you say something is mind-numbing, or if you're saying that you feel numb, you're saying that you don't feel anything emotionally, usually, okay? Now, prison we all know. Now, people, if you commit a crime, you may go to jail. That's right, prison is just another word for jail. So confinement, jail, lockup, or penitentiary. These are all synonyms for the word prison. Stress goes on the first syllable. Moving on to risk. Risk is like a danger, a possibility, or even exposure to something. Usually not good, something that is bad, okay? Envious. Let's take a look at the pronunciation. Stress goes on the first syllable, envious. People can be envious of others, right? They may feel that they want something that others have and they don't have. So here we go. Some very simple and easy synonyms are jealous, green with envy. Okay, you can say, oh, I'm envious of you, or I envy you. You can also say, I am green with envy. I'm green with envy. This is kind of an old expression, but just in case you see it somewhere or hear it somewhere, keep in mind what it means. To be green with envy means to be envious, to be jealous. Okay, here we go with our first pattern. From all walks of life. All walks of life. People from all different places, from all different social groups, ethnic groups, people that are rich, poor, people that have all different experiences. You have an idea, right? Here we go. We saw people at the conference from all walks of life. Let's try it one more time. We saw people at the conference from all walks of life. So once again, we're talking about people from different social, economic, and ethnic groups. Moving on, be one's own boss. I'm my own boss. It means nobody gives me orders. I own my own business. You can be a freelancer. You can also be your own boss. It means to run your own business. An entrepreneur can be described as being one's boss as well. I love being my own boss. Why? Because I have full control of my work hours. That's right. I have full control of my work hours, and I love being my own boss. Moving on to be under the impression. To be under the impression means what? To think or assume something, often resulting in something that's incorrect, but usually if you assume or guess something, you could say that you are under the impression. Here we go. I was under the impression that you didn't like me. Let's try it one more time. I was under the impression that you didn't like me. Okay? You're saying that you thought, you had a feeling that this person didn't like you. Okay? Here's one final pattern. Out and about. To be out and about means what? To be out of your home, outside working, moving around, or even enjoying social activities. Just doing things outside of your home. Outside of your home, okay? On New Year's Eve, the city seems to be out and about. Okay? On New Year's Eve, that's right. Everyone's busy. Almost no one is home. Everybody's outside enjoying some kind of activity on New Year's Eve. So you can say, on New Year's Eve, the city seems to be out and about. Okay, everyone, that is a wrap for today's Actual Expressions.
When it comes to freelancing versus full-time, there are positives and negatives. For freelancing, I think one of the best parts is you work on your own schedule and you get to choose the work that you want to do. So you have a lot of freedom. And if you're highly skilled, then you can get paid more for the work that you do. So there are some positives, but some of the negatives, if you are easily distracted or if you're not very disciplined, freelancing is not for you. You have to stay focused and get your work done on time. Also, I guess it could be a little bit lonely because you work by yourself a lot. So those would be some of the negatives. For working full-time, the positives would be the structure and organization of working at a company. You know, there's already rules, there's already plans, so you don't have to worry about setting things up yourself. Also, there's always work to do. You don't have to find work, and you get to work with your coworkers so you don't feel as lonely. And my favorite part is the company benefits and the bonuses. So those are the positives. The negatives, I would say, you know, working every day, not as flexible, and you don't have as many choices. So, of course, both of them, there's positives and negatives. It just kind of depends on your personality and what you want to do.
Today we had Whitney from America helping us out with Actual Story. Now she's talked about the pros and cons, the pluses and the minuses of freelancing and working full-time. I think she did make some pretty good points, so let's take a look at what she said together. She says for freelancing, okay, the best part is that you work on your own schedule. So you work on your own schedule. we're talking about the best part of freelancing. A big pro of freelancing. I guess it could be a little bit lonely because you work by yourself a lot. So I guess if you are a people person, if you really enjoy people's company, if you like to be with people and engage in activities with others, then you may not exactly enjoy freelancing. But she's talking about a pro. Okay, you can work on your own schedule. Maybe a little small minus is that you could feel a little bit lonely. Let's take a look at working full-time then. Okay, for working full-time, there are rules and plans. So you don't have to worry about setting things up. Now, the thing is, you don't have to worry about these things. So that is a definite pro. Working full-time, everything is set for you. There are rules and plans. All you need to do is follow them. So it's not so difficult. What about this? There's always work to do. There's always work. You don't have to find work. This is another pro, I guess, of working full-time. If you have a lot of work, okay, if you have work, you don't have to worry about finding more work. Whereas freelancers, if you're done with one project or this work, this job, you have to look for new things to do. Okay, so we talked about the pros and cons of freelancing and working full-time. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's take a listen to it one more time.
When it comes to freelancing versus full-time, there are positive and negatives. For freelancing, I think one of the best parts is you work on your own schedule and you get to choose the work that you want to do. So you have a lot of freedom. And if you're highly skilled, then you can get paid more for the work that you do. So there are some positives, but some of the negatives, if you are easily distracted or if you're not very disciplined, freelancing is not for you. You have to stay focused and get your work done on time. Also, I guess it could be a little bit lonely because you work by yourself a lot. So those would be some of the negatives. For working full-time, the positives would be the structure and organization of working at a company. You know, there's already rules, there's already plans, so you don't have to worry about setting things up yourself. Also, there's always work to do. You don't have to find work, and you get to work with your coworkers so you don't feel as lonely. And my favorite part is the company benefits and the bonuses. So those are the positives. The negatives, I would say, working every day, not as flexible, and you don't have as many choices. So, of course, both of them, there's positives and negatives. It just kind of depends on your personality and what you want to do.
Did you catch the other benefits, the advantages and the disadvantages of freelancing and working full-time? It's true, she has pointed out a lot of benefits, advantages of working full-time as well. So if you didn't catch them, listen to the actual story response many more times, and I hope you understand everything she has said. So that's our lesson for today. Next time we're going to move on to work 2 and talk about management styles, okay? Management styles. Look forward to that lesson. In the meantime, if you have any questions or if you just want to swing by to say hello, come to our homepage, everyone. Come on over to www.ebse.co.kr. Look for Actual English with Jennifer and post up your comments or questions, any feedback on our message board. And make sure to check out our scripts that are uploaded there as well. Okay, that's a wrap for today. I'll have to say goodbye and catch you again next time. Until then, take care and bye for now.